I'm Selena, a name they barely said aloud when guests came over. I was the other child, the backup dancer to my brother Ryan's spotlight. He was the golden boy, the one they said was born for success, while I was the one they told to keep it down, wear something less weird, and try not to embarrass the family. I always did. Until I didn't. For years, I worked in silence. I took on freelance design gigs during college, eating ramen and drinking tap water while my parents funneled every cent into Ryan's business ventures that all conveniently failed, yet somehow always ended with a new car or a luxurious vacation for him. Me? I once got a vacuum for my birthday, used. But I never complained, not out loud. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. By 28, I owned a penthouse overlooking the skyline, a reward I bought with grit, sweat, and sleepless nights. I never showed it off, never flaunted my success. My parents didn't even ask where I lived. I was still, to them, the quiet, artsy disappointment. Until Ryan got married. It was supposed to be a small wedding at a resort, but when my parents learned I lived in a lavish penthouse just 15 minutes from the venue, everything changed. "We're moving the bridal prep to your place," my mother declared like it was already done. "No," I said calmly. "It's my home." Dad's eyes narrowed. "You think you're too good for family now? We raised you. You raised me to believe I was second to everything." Then, in front of the wedding planner, the caterers, and Ryan, who did absolutely nothing, my father slapped me across the face. My ears rang, my heart thudded, my dignity cracked, but didn't break. They stormed out, yelling that I had ruined Ryan's big day, that I was selfish, disrespectful, ungrateful. That's when I realized they never saw me as their daughter, only as a resource, a stepping stone, an extra room key. That night, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city, and I made a decision. If they only remembered me when they wanted something, then I'd make sure this was a memory they'd never forget. I didn't cry that night, not out of strength, but out of something colder, clarity. Something snapped inside me, but not the kind that shatters. It was the kind that sharpens, like a blade being pulled from its sheath. For years, I thought love was earned through quiet compliance. I thought maybe if I got the right job, dressed the way they wanted, kept my voice soft and my achievements smaller, they'd one day look at me the way they looked at Ryan, with pride, or even just interest. But as I stood alone in my penthouse, the city lights flickering below like stars beneath my feet, I realized they didn't care if I succeeded. They only cared what I could give and what Ryan could take. I spent the next few weeks away from family, phone on silent, my inbox flooded with backhanded apologies from my mother like, "Let's not make this about you. We all say things in the heat of planning." Not one mention of the slap, not a single sorry. That's when I began phase 1 of my plan. Not revenge, not at first, just reclamation. I went back to therapy. I reconnected with old friends I had pushed aside to be more available for family. I started saying no, loudly. I stopped sending birthday gifts, stopped showing up to events where I was expected to take pictures but never be in them. And then I heard from Janice, the wedding planner. She texted me privately. "Selena, I hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say what happened was awful and you didn't deserve it." I hadn't realized how much I needed someone to say that. Janice and I became friends and eventually collaborators. She introduced me to people in high spaces who admired my design work. Within months, I was doing interior renovations for luxury venues, resorts, bridal lounges, even a celebrity couple's honeymoon suite. Ironically, my name started appearing in bridal magazines. Not Ryan's, not even my parents'. It was during one of those photo shoots that an idea hit me, not out of spite, but poetic precision. My parents' home, the one they'd lorded over me growing up, was struggling. They were behind on taxes, and Ryan's crypto investment had gone under. Through a quiet LLC, I bought their mortgage from the bank. Every document legally signed, sealed, and binding. I even hired a third-party management company to issue a new lease agreement. It wasn't immediate. I waited. I waited until Christmas Eve. That's when I mailed the notice. Not an eviction yet. Just a new lease. Higher rent. Strict rules. No unauthorized guests. Noise policy enforced. But most importantly, a reminder of who held the key now. They called. Multiple times. When I didn't pick up, Mom sent a voice note. "You're punishing us." Over what? A misunderstanding? We're your parents. You wouldn't even have that penthouse without us. And there it was again. They still thought I owed them for surviving their neglect, for pulling myself out of the mess they left me in. So I did something they'd never expect. I invited them to a dinner at my penthouse. I told them I had exciting news. They came, dressed in clothes I'm sure they couldn't afford anymore, Ryan in tow with his fiancée who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. I had the table set immaculately, my own name engraved on the cutlery, my own brand on the wine bottle. They walked in and froze. On the wall behind the table I had hung a canvas, the very first design blueprint I ever drew. The one they laughed at in high school, said was a waste of time. Mom squinted at it. "You kept that?" I nodded, and built everything from it. Dinner was tense. Every fork clink echoed. Dad's eyes wandered. Ryan tapped his phone, probably calculating how much all this cost. Then I handed them an envelope. Inside was the lease renewal, along with a note. "You used to say I'd never amount to anything. Now I own the roof over your heads. Don't worry, I won't kick you out. That would make me like you." Silence. Ryan stood up first, mumbling that they had to go. But as my parents left, shaken and pale, my mother turned to me and whispered, "You've changed." I met her gaze, steady. Number I just finally stopped begging to be loved by people who only showed up to take. The weeks that followed were quiet, eerily so. My parents didn't call. Ryan didn't text. The silence, once something I feared like abandonment, now felt like freedom, like finally walking barefoot on cool ground after years of running on glass. But the story wasn't finished yet. You see, when you grow up being underestimated, there's a deep part of you that aches not just to succeed, but to be seen. Not for the drama, not for the revenge, but for the truth of who you are underneath all the scars they gave you. So I made one last move. It started with an invitation. This time, not to my penthouse, but to a gala, a charity event, one I was hosting. The theme? Second chances for the overlooked. A silent nod to every girl who was ever told she wasn't enough. Every kid who grew up on the sidelines of their own family. I invited my entire extended family, my parents, Ryan, even his fiancée. They showed up, curious, cautious. It was the kind of event they used to wish I'd be invited to, let alone headline. Glittering chandeliers, photographers, a red carpet with my name printed at the backdrop, Selena Hart Foundation. My mom gawked. "You started a foundation?" I smiled. "Yes, for kids who grow up like I did." She shifted. "We supported you?" "No," I cut in softly. "You survived me. There's a difference." Then came the moment I'd planned for. On stage, as I gave my speech, I paused halfway through and looked directly at the crowd. "I want to thank someone tonight," I said, my voice steady. "I want to thank the people who told me I was too sensitive, who said my degree was useless, who called me the family disappointment." I saw my mother flinch. My father looked down. Ryan tried to laugh. "And I want to thank them not because they helped me, but because they didn't, because without their silence, their absence, and their condescension, I might have never found my own voice." Then I revealed the surprise of the evening, a full-ride scholarship program for young women in design, named after my childhood art teacher, the only adult who ever encouraged my sketches. The room erupted in applause. But my parents didn't clap. They couldn't. They were too busy choking on the bitter realization that the daughter they once laughed at was now being celebrated by strangers for the very things they mocked. And then came the final twist. As they were leaving, my mother approached me with tears in her eyes. She whispered, "We were just scared. You were always different." I nodded. I was, and I still am, That's what saved me. Then I handed her a gift bag. Inside was a photo frame. In it, a copy of the RSVP card from Ryan's wedding, the one where they'd listed me as event photographer, no meal. Across the front of it, I had printed one simple line. "You never gave me a seat at your table, so I built my own." She looked up at me, her hands trembling. But I had already turned to greet the mayor, who had just arrived to honor me with a civic award. In that moment, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I wasn't the girl holding a camera behind her sister's veil. I wasn't the backup plan or the last to be considered. I was Selena Hart, founder, visionary, homeowner, and the landlord of the people who once called me a failure. They taught me everything I needed by showing me exactly who I'd never become. And that was the most poetic closure of all. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.